Thursday, we're going to really focus here on the offensive line and the work done there. I've got a story on this coming tomorrow, and I'm not the first person to point this out, but I did dig deeper a little bit into the numbers here. This is the second biggest offensive line class in terms of weight that Georgia has signed. They have 6 commitments right now: Marcus Harrison, Malachi Tolliver, Daniel Calhoun, Nair Daniels, Michael Inui, and Marquise Easley. Those are the 6 guys committed right now to Georgia, and it is the tallest class, with the average height being, I believe, going off the top of my head here with the math, always a bit of a dangerous game. The average offensive lineman for this class is 6'6" and 328 pounds. By comparison, last year's offensive line class, which pretty talented guys like Monroe Fielding, Bo Hewley, Kelton Smith, a talented offensive line haul, they came in with an average weight of 295 pounds. And so obviously with any offensive lineman coming in, this is not a position where guys play early. Andrew Thomas is the only freshman to start a game for Georgia on the offensive line. True freshman, I should clarify there. There have been a few red shirts along the way. Andrew Thomas is still the only freshman to start a game for Georgia. And recently, I believe Amarius Mims is the only offensive lineman other than Andrew Thomas that did not redshirt as a freshman. So this is a position where you're going to come in, you're going to sit, and you're going to wait, in part because a lot of times these guys are having to resculpt their bodies. And that's going to be true even with a heavier class. You know, someone like Daniel Calhoun, we know he's going to come in and probably lose some weight and reshape his body a little bit and lose some of that baby fat. That's just the reality of coming in when you are that size. But with Stacy Searels, since he is taking over as the offensive line coach for Matt Luke, this is clearly an offensive line that has trended bigger. The two, in terms of height, the 2 tallest offensive line classes in terms of average height entering in have been in these past 2 cycles. And so clearly I think Stacy is looking for a bigger offensive lineman coming in. And, you know, it was a big change when Sam Pittman came in from Mark Richt. You didn't see Georgia recruit a lot of 300-pound offensive linemen anymore, guys that were sub 300 pounds. When Matt Luke took over, you saw them maybe look for that more athletic model and guys who were going to have to put on weight early in college, but could eventually get there with more flexible offensive linemen. I think that ties into what Todd Monken was looking for as well there. So I think with Coach Searels now, you see and you have a good idea of what he's looking for in his offensive linemen. For example, you know, Daniel Calhoun, 6'6", 355 pounds. Nair Daniels, 6'8", 340 pounds. Marcus Harrison, 6'7", 336 pounds. Michael Inui, you know, he's the skinny one of the bunch at 290 pounds. He's also 6'7". So he clearly has the ability to add weight there. Monroe Freeling is someone, I think, 6'6" and a half. He came in 294 pounds, and he is getting his weight up there to where it is in a better place. And even, you know, you look back, someone like Amarius Mims came in 6'7" at 315 was his listed weight. He's playing at 335, and if he wanted to, he could probably put on even more weight there. So I think you've seen under Coach Searels, this is an offensive line that's gotten bigger. That is by design. You even look across the guys that are starting there. You know, consider 2 years ago, you had Jamari Sawyer and you had Justin Schaefer in the second half of that national championship game as your guards. Those guys both 6'4", not huge per se. And then you look this season, Tate Ratledge is a legit 6'5". Xavier Trush is pushing 6'7". Those are your 2 offensive guards there. You're just a lot bigger. Obviously, Amarius Mims, there aren't a whole lot of human beings out there that are that size. And so it is, in general, just a bigger offensive line that Georgia has had. And it'll be interesting to see what that sort of allows Georgia to do. Obviously, last year, that group had a ton of success. 9 sacks, I believe, given up all season. In my opinion, if they wait to award the Joe Moore Award after the season ends, I think Georgia pretty clearly wins that award. I think how both the Michigan front and the Georgia front did against TCU would have definitely helped in Georgia's favor there. And one of the things I did in going back and looking at past recruiting hauls and, you know, looking obviously at their heights and weights, but also a little bit in their recruiting numbers in terms of where guys were ranked and slotted coming in. You know, this is not the greatest offensive line class. Daniel Calhoun is the highest ranked right now, number 97 overall. There is not that 5-star, you know, stud guy, Amarius Mims, Broderick Jones, you know, even Isaiah Wilson back in the 2017 cycle leaped to mind there. But I think that's more of a byproduct of the offensive line class as a whole in terms of the 2024 recruiting cycle. It is not a great offensive line class in terms of just elite guys at the top there. Only 11 offensive linemen right now rank among the top 100 overall prospects in the 2024 recruiting cycle. That would be the lowest of the Kirby Smart tenure at Georgia. And I think that just sort of speaks to, in general, a dearth of offensive linemen in this cycle that traditionally measure up and fit what a team of Georgia's caliber is looking for. And I think because of that, it makes the battles that Georgia has already won all the more important. Daniel Calhoun, Nair Daniels, Michael Inouye. Georgia was battling some big time programs for those guys, specifically Alabama, and we can include Marquise Easley here as well out of Illinois. Alabama wanted Calhoun, they wanted Inouye, and they wanted Easley, and Georgia beat them on all three of them. Now, how much would they beat by? We don't know. I know that Alabama made a very strong push to land Calhoun, and Georgia went in there and won that. And sort of wrapping and putting a bow on the offensive line subject, Stacy Searels was a guy who, even from me, faced a lot of questions when he came to Georgia and this hire was made of, well, you talk so much about recruiting and the importance of that in his first tenure at Georgia. He didn't do what Kirby Smart was doing. But I think it's so hard to compare what anyone on Georgia's staff was doing from a recruiting standpoint before Kirby Smart was the head coach to what he has done now. He has supercharged recruiting across all positions, and the tide rises all boats. I think with the way that he recruits, and obviously as well, the way that this program is built. Look, no program has put more players in the NFL in the last 3 years than Georgia. Georgia has won back-to-back national championships. As great as this staff is with interpersonal relationships and convincing them that this is the best place, and convincing parents that this is the best place for their sons, it absolutely helps to have tangible things that you can point to that say, hey, not only are we telling you this, we have the proof to back it up. Georgia had 2 offensive linemen taken in last year's draft. Both their offensive tackles got drafted. If you have elite measurables and you are good enough to play at Georgia and you come to Georgia, odds are you're probably going to be a first-round pick. Andrew Thomas, Isaiah Wilson, Broderick Jones. Jamari Sawyer was not, but he started 13 games last year for a team that went to the playoffs in the Los Angeles Chargers, and it was very clearly better than the 6th-round pick that he was billed as. And so I say all that. Stacy Searels clearly knows what he's looking for in the offensive line now. I think he's identified that. I think we have enough of a sample size to have some idea of a blueprint in terms of what he is looking for. And this is a guy that deserves major credit, has answered a ton of questions. And the biggest one was, could he go out and recruit at an elite level? I think this last week has shown you that. And then when you factor in with what you saw from this offensive line last year, I thought the 2022 Georgia offensive line was a clear upgrade over what the Bulldogs had in 2021. And I think Searels' direction deserves a lot of credit for that. That's not to paint a negative light on Matt Luke. I just thought the offensive line was better this past season. And so going into 2023, I think that's going to be the case again. And for me, if I do ultimately pick in the preseason that Georgia's going to win the national title, I do think they're going to win every regular season game. Their offensive line is going to be a big reason why that's the case, because yes, you have changed at quarterback, you have changed an offensive coordinator. If this offensive line under Stacy Searels is as good as it was a season ago and continues to be when they bring in this new realm of recruits, Georgia's going to be very, very good for the foreseeable future because their offensive line is that good. Yes, some schools have other quarterbacks. Some schools have better wide receiver play. When you win on the lines of scrimmage the way Georgia has won in the last 2 years, it's just really hard to lose a lot of games. And, some team might beat you in a one-off. We saw Alabama do that in the SEC championship game. But when you have those kind of bodies, both the talent and just the raw depth that a team like Georgia has makes winning a whole lot easier.